General laboratory safety. Laboratory programs are an important part of both education and research at UPEI. In the Faculty of Sustainable Design Engineering, or FSDE, laboratory and workshop activities will be a key part of your experiential learning. However, laboratory activities frequently involve the use of equipment and chemicals that are hazardous if not used safely. Making sure that laboratories are safe is the responsibility of everyone that is involved: administrators, faculty, staff, and students. All of the university's guidelines for safe laboratory practices have been compiled into one manual, the UPEI Laboratory Safety Manual. The manual is quite extensive, so as a student, you are not expected to read it in its entirety. Instead, this safety course, as well as your instructors and supervisors, will provide you with the appropriate information to complete your activities safely. If you have any questions or concerns, please ask your instructor, a technician, or the engineering area safety leader. Door signage. Before entering any lab in the building, you will see a variety of safety signage posted on the lab doors. Door diamonds are posted on entrances to all labs and indicate which hazards are present using the standard Workplace Hazardous Materials Information System, WHMIS, symbols, such as flammable gas, corrosive chemicals, and others. Symbols indicating the presence of safety equipment, such as first aid kits and eye wash stations, are also posted on the door diamond signs. The door diamonds present the emergency contact information for the lab space and the clearance required to enter the space. Note that most lab spaces on the first floor of the FSDE are classified as no access without pre-authorization. Access to these spaces is controlled by the technical staff, and permission will only be granted upon completion of the required safety training. Additional signs posted on laboratory doors indicate the personal protective equipment, or PPE, that is mandatory while in the lab space. Examples of PPE commonly required in the building include safety glasses or steel-toed footwear. Personal protective equipment. Always wear PPE when you are directed to do so by your instructor, door signage, or a standard operating procedure. If you are conducting an activity outside of the lab and are concerned about hazards and PPE, please ask a technician. Not all personal protective equipment is mandatory at all times, as it depends on the physical, chemical, or biological hazards present. Steel-toed footwear is required in most lab spaces to protect your feet from the risk of falling objects. Safety footwear should also be equipped with sole protection and anti-slip coatings to protect you when stepping on sharp objects or slippery surfaces. Eye protection is required in any lab in which objects, debris, or chemicals could be thrown, blown, or splashed into your eyes. Safety glasses protect your eyes from these hazards and are required in most labs. When working with hazardous chemicals, it is also important to protect the rest of your body. Clothing should be worn which covers all of your skin, such as a lab coat, long sleeves, and full-length pant legs or tights. You must also wear gloves to protect your hands when working with hazardous chemicals, most commonly disposable nitrile or vinyl gloves. If you have been working with chemicals or biohazardous materials, do not continue wearing PPE after leaving the laboratory, as there is a risk that it has been contaminated. When handling very hot or cold materials or objects, you should wear appropriate thermal gloves to protect yourself from burns. When working with heavy machinery, all skin should be covered. To reduce the risk of injury, do not wear loose-fitting clothing, jewelry, or loose long hair when operating moving equipment. When lab activities include the use of loud machinery, students, staff, and faculty must wear hearing protection, whether that be earplugs or earmuffs. Occasionally, when visiting industrial sites or in lab activities, you may need to protect your head in the event of falling objects. On these occasions, you will be provided a hard hat to wear. Safety resources and documentation found in laboratories. There are a variety of resources in the laboratories that can assist you in preventing accidents or in managing accidents that have occurred. Standard Operating Procedures, or SOPs, outline safe methodology for using equipment in the lab and conducting standard laboratory activities. These documents can typically be found in the Occupational Health and Safety binder. Before working with a potentially hazardous chemical, you should consult its Safety Data Sheet, SDS, found in the SDS binder, for information on how to use the chemical safely or handle accidental exposure or spills. In the event that you are injured or are splashed with hazardous chemicals, you should seek treatment using a first aid kit, safety shower, or eye wash station as required. These safety resources are available throughout the building, and you should note where the nearest safety equipment is to you when you are performing any hazardous task. Some labs are equipped with fume hoods or other forms of suction that you should use if the task you're performing can generate hazardous fumes, such as mixing chemical solutions or soldering electronics. If you are injured during a lab activity or have a near miss, you must inform your instructor or the lab supervisor. They will help you fill out an incident report in accordance with UPEI policy and work to prevent such an incident from reoccurring. Fire and other emergencies. If you discover a small fire, you can use a fire extinguisher to put it out if it does not put you in danger to do so. Fire extinguishers can be found in hallways and laboratory spaces. Their locations are indicated with signs. The technique for using a fire extinguisher can be remembered easily as the pass method. Pull the pin in the handle, aim the nozzle at the base of the fire, squeeze the lever slowly, sweep from side to side. If you are the first person to notice a large fire, or you witness something else that may endanger people in the building, you will have to pull the fire alarm. These alarms are located in prominent locations in hallways. Building evacuation plans show the locations of fire alarm pull stations with green squares. The locations of fire extinguishers are also indicated with red circles. If the fire alarm sounds, you must evacuate the building through one of the emergency exits. The route to emergency exits are indicated by green and white signs, and exits are shown with blue triangles on the building evacuation plans. If you are the last to leave the lab, close the doors behind you and proceed calmly to the exit. Floor wardens, identifiable by their bright vests, will also be available during an evacuation to provide directions on safely evacuating the building. During a fire alarm, you must evacuate the building using the stairs, not the elevator. If you need assistance using the stairs, ask a fire warden to assign someone to assist you.
So I have to figure out what I want to do.
Behaviors and responsibilities. As a student working in a UPEI laboratory, you have responsibilities to ensure your own safety and that of others. If you do not follow these guidelines or other instructions provided during the laboratory session, your laboratory instructor or supervisor has the right to dismiss you from the laboratory or to deny you access. You need to arrive to your laboratory class on time so that you are present for any safety instructions that may be provided by your instructor at the start of the laboratory session. Otherwise, you may be asked to leave the lab and reschedule. Finish consuming any food or beverages before you come to the lab. You cannot bring food or drinks into the laboratory. Put on any personal protective equipment that is required for the lab room. To avoid creating trip hazards, place your kit bags, coats, and any other large objects well under the workbenches, on the tabletops off to the side, or hang on hooks if available. Tie back long hair, remove neckties, scarves, long jewelry, and avoid loose clothing around mechanical equipment. Do not touch any equipment in the lab other than that which your instructor has given you permission to use. Only do activities when you have been authorized to do so by your instructor. Ask for help before starting any activities that you are not fully familiar with and that might pose a hazard to yourself or others. Check your equipment before using it. Do not operate any piece of equipment that is missing guards, interlocks, or other safety devices, or has frayed cords or worn switches. You must know enough about the equipment that you are using to be able to identify if it is not in proper working order. Inform your instructor or lab supervisor of any damaged equipment. Keep your workspace tidy and clean up spills promptly using appropriate procedures. Tidy and clean up after yourself before you leave the lab. Do not work alone in the lab, because if there is an accident, you will not have someone to assist you. At all times when you are in the laboratory, you should work in such a way as to minimize both your own exposure and your fellow students' exposure to any hazardous materials or processes. Thank you for watching this safety video. Remember, safety is always the first priority, and it is the responsibility of everyone involved. If everyone works together to maintain a safe environment, we can avoid incidents and injury.